The Revenant. This video will let you experience the strength of the Revenant. It is amazing how well it takes us to another time and place while still keeping its value as a work of art. The Revenant isn't simply a movie, it's an experience. You leave it enriched, intrigued with the general nature of the filmmaking, and somewhat more thankful for the common luxuries of your life. The striking feature of The Revenant is its endless scenes of vigilante-styled violence, free-flow profane banter, anarchic wit, and the gore shot in an extremely low budget. It displays Kerry Prior, the writer-director's cinematic genius, by bringing this half-human, half-undead hybrid known as a Revenant. Filmmaker Kerry Prior makes a smart choice. The indie zombie film has been put through its paces so many times that it's wonderful to see a filmmaker do something unique with it, which is why Kerry Prior's The Revenant is so welcome. It's a pitch black comedy, a buddy picture, and a fascinating character study all rolled into one. The film covers a lot of territory in terms of style, yet it never seems disconnected. Furthermore, the acting is fresh, particularly between the two male stars and the production. The creation doesn't look modest by any stretch of the imagination. Included content with various exciting bends in the road, and when you add in a script with several twists and turns, as well as a wonderfully amazing finale, The Revenant emerges as a genuine cult favorite. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Story and plot. The Revenant opens with a youthful warrior, Bart Gregory, David Anders, once upon a time, getting killed in the line of obligation. After 1 month of being buried, he reawakens as a weird vampire-zombie hybrid. It does not take Bart long to understand that he has to consume human blood to survive. Bart becomes a midnight vigilante with the aid of his old pal Joey, Chris Wilde, Joe Dirt, killing gangsters and other bad men to satisfy his insatiable need. The film centers around Second Lieutenant Bart Gregory, David Anders, who has been killed under mysterious conditions in Iraq. After his companions and sweetheart Janet, Louise Griffiths, go to his memorial service, Bart stirs in his grave. With the assistance of his friend, Joey Liebner, Chris Wilde, Bart begins to comprehend and learn how to live with his new undead existence, including the knowledge that he requires blood to prevent decomposition, and that he is inactive during daylight hours. Joey conducts internet research to determine what Bart is, and appears to be trapped between a zombie and a vampire, before concluding that Bart is a Revenant. When Bart murders and feeds off a gangster who is holding up the store while purchasing beer from a little store in Koreatown, Bart and Joey become vigilantes. Joey begs Bart to bestow the dark gift on him, since he enjoys the media coverage of the tragedy. Bart flatly refuses and dismisses the suggestion, following a failed vigilantism attempt at which Joey is gravely wounded. Bart is forced to ingest Joey's blood in order to save him. For a time, the two continue their vigilante murdering spree until Matilda, J.C. King, Janet's friend who dislikes both Bart and Joey, pursues them and threatens to expose their deeds to the public, particularly Janet. Matilda gets shot by Joey, but she is able to convey the information to Janet before she dies. Joey orders Bart to meet him back at the flat in half an hour with a packed suitcase, fearing that they may be discovered, and then drives away suddenly. At the flat, Bart is confronted by a tearful Janet, who pushes him to explain that he needs blood to keep stable. She then begs him to feed off of her instead of killing, so that he won't have to murder. Bart loses control and begins to drain her till she passes out. Despite being based on a few familiar genre tropes, The Revenant manages to deliver a surprising amount of creativity and character. Joey comes back to the apartment with a pimped out hearse for the two to use. It advises him that they can continue their reign in Las Vegas. After Bart shows him Janet's body, the two start fighting and repeatedly shoot each other. Despite the fact that this is inadequate to kill either of them, Joey storms away, declaring that he will travel to Vegas alone. Bart decapitates Janet to assure her death, then throws her body over the bridge, where he and Joey routinely disposed of their corpses. SWAT forces apprehend Bart and transport him to jail, where he falls asleep in his cell at daybreak. Bart reawakens at the morgue after dusk and flees, returning to his apartment. There's a parcel inside with Joey's severed head. Joey is still alive because he was decapitated at night, and Bart uses a vibrating dildo to make Joey's head talk. Joey informs Bart that a gangbanger who was their first kill is out for vengeance, and then demands that Bart kill him once and for all. Joey's skull is crushed beneath the bulldozer, and Bart subsequently tries to kill himself. A gunshot through the head, contrary to popular belief, has no impact, and neither does hanging oneself with Christmas lights. He even throws himself in front of a metro train, only to have his arm severed. Bart then takes a train, where he discovers and reads a note placed in his uniform pocket by Janet during his burial. He loses control and strikes the other passenger. He is apprehended and runs into the station, where he is pursued by other SWAT units. He ultimately makes it to a mountaintop, where he falls again at daybreak, surrounded by guys in hazmat suits. The picture then transitions to a type of tour, at which various military members, including Bart, are shown revenants in glass containers. Bart is asked if he was a soldier by a general, who then claims that this information may offer him an advantage. Bart is then thrown into a big canister, along with the other revenants, being airdropped into Kazakhstan province, Iran, where the canister opens upon landing, unleashing him upon the nation.
Fuck! Get the fuck out of here! Get out of here, dude!
Reviews. A subtle sprinkling of societal satire, a touch of humorously unpleasant gore, plenty of terrible mayhem, and surprisingly good effects round up the flick. While the twists and turns in The Revenant may not be to everyone's taste, the trip is interesting, exciting, a touching tale, heartbreaking, and nearly always invigorating. The film's main protagonists, Anders and Wilde, also pour a lot of energy, passion, and reality into their roles by means of The Boondock Saints, An American Werewolf in London, and Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Their chemistry together propels the film, which frequently plays like a twisted variant of Bonnie and Clyde, the one where the guy resurrects his dead girlfriend. Without the unusual pair of Chris Wilde and David Anders, who were a match made in heaven, everything would have been lost. Chris Wilde also finds his niche in the horror comedy genre, as a loyal friend would, by mocking Anders' zombie antics. Wilde's stoner sensibilities are a fantastic match for Joey's character and the ideal counterpoint to Bart, bringing silly humor into the mix at just the right times. Joey is your Rocco, if you're a fan of the Boondock Saints. Lovable, zany, and full of brilliant ideas that keep Bart in his predicament. The one faltering point that didn't totally stick is about Bart's connection with Janet, Louise Griffiths. I'm not one to dismiss romantic elements based on a prejudiced aversion to the genre, but her unwavering love for Bart, though charming, felt like a distraction from the rest of the plot. In this regard, The Revenant becomes a touch sentimental, but Janet also sets the stage for some really amusing conversations later in the film, so it's all fine. Overall, the finale was excellent. A soldier who is so morally conscientious that he is killed in the beginning becomes the ideal killing machine at the end, completing the circle. The anti-war, anti-gun attitude has been expertly implanted. The script is smart, sardonic, and extremely amusing, with a healthy amount of sadness tossed in for good measure, making the characters much more believable and human. Overall, this is terrific entertainment for those of us who enjoy this delectably twisted genre when it's done correctly. Surrounds are edgy, bringing life to almost every scene. There are no crackles or distortions in the dialogue, but there is a lot of hiss at times, as well as some echo in specific passages. The bass is likewise quiet, but it does chime in to highlight a few critical moments. Although the quality is practically a bit dim, the picture does sound well. It started off a little dry, but after things started happening, I found myself really liking it. The key cause for this was David Anders' funny character, portrayed by Chris Wilde, irritated me more than anything else, but Anders and his some very humorous bits saved the film for me. This was undeniably a non-traditional vampire film. While the narrative begins lightheartedly, it quickly gets serious and tragic. The acting was adequate, but the narrative was lousy at best. I think the bottom line is that, as a lover of vampire films, I found the film enjoyable and a decent way to pass the time. The film is a bit lengthy, and the plot appeared to drag on at parts. The picture progresses from amusing to gravely somber. It mixes in vampire lore mixed with some zombie plague. This was an amazing, if slightly imperfect attempt with a lot to admire about it. One of the film's stronger features is the sensitive area of how it handles with the guy's condition, putting vampire and zombie qualities in him while never declaring whether he is one or the other. It's a terrific tactic that works well since it results in such an appealing creature that the scenes of them chasing people down are a lot funnier than expected and produce some really excellent, genuine chuckles from their fumbling and stumbling around, which is pleasant to watch. Zombies and vampires have recently been done to death. We've seen romantic vampires, comedic zombies, and a plethora of hybrids of the two. So just when we thought we'd seen every variation on the zombie theme, here comes the Revenant. They blend the two here, resulting in sentient zombies that don't just moan about the place devouring human flesh, but instead only come to life at night and seek human blood, much like vampires. Surprisingly, it works. Extras include a making of documentary, deleted scenes, a picture gallery, and trailers, as well as 2 commentary tracks, one from director Kerry Prior and the other from the cast. The remarks are both entertaining and educational. Stick with the cast track if you prefer party music. The director track, on the other hand, is clearly the most well-rounded of the two. The 13-minute featurette is also worth watching. Revenant mashes up undead havoc anti-war theme. It's not exactly a zombie film. A revenant returns from the dead as a physical ghost, but it acts as one, and its anti-war emotions are smuggled in like a ruse that explodes with surprising intensity. Whereas Dante and Ham communicated their message with scathing wit, writer-director Kerry Prior opts for a goofy, shambling bloodbath in the Shaun of the Dead tradition, following a pair of pals as they swap quips and face nefarious powers from beyond the dead. It eventually makes a statement, but the journey there is a half-fun, half-tedious clearing of the throat. Bart, David Anders, dies from several gunshot wounds while on a night raid in the Iraqi desert after stopping to care for a wounded kid, and just then the hostile forces assault his supply vehicle. Despite receiving a dignified funeral back home, Bart does not die. He's pleased to be alive after waking up 6 feet below and clawing his way to the surface, but frightened that his eyes have become milky white and the decomposition process hasn't stopped. The Revenant enters a hazardous zone at this point. Bart isn't a brain-thirsty zombie, but rather a conscientious individual who happens to love blood and flesh. He can't bring himself to savage the innocent. So he and Joey become a vigilante crime-fighting squad, gunning down stick-up men and drug pushers to cheers from the town, who mainly turn the other way as the bodies are absconded with. The gruesome, chaotic events that follow add much of the weight to the film's bloated 2-hour running length. They also hijack the tone, obliterating the early scenes' sharp, fish-out-of-water comedy in favor of slaughter and mayhem. The Revenant is about reconciling Bart's conscience with his horrible cravings, and this is where Prior's metaphoric objective begins to pay off. Bart is murdered in Iraq. When his compassion triumphs over protocol, the Revenant's iconic storyline is that as he gradually distances himself from humanity, Bart eventually becomes a true soldier. The Revenant fused horror with humor in a way similar of how the Boondock Saints merged action and comedy in the same vigilantism plot, which is a huge compliment in my opinion. The Revenant, a zombie. The Revenant is a sort of zombie that started in European legend. Revenants are less inclined to decaying and crumbling than customary zombies, and they normally hold information and recollections from their earlier presence. They are persuaded by a solitary consuming objective, most regularly retribution or genuine love, and are spurred by an energy so extraordinary that it might conquer death. In specific mythical circles, a Revenant zombie can be brought back by things like a wrong burial, or the individual being referred to not understanding they are dead and shouldn't be wandering near. There's an explanation that the words Revenant and Vengeance are derived from a similar French root word, revanche, to revenge upon. Similarly, we have The Revenant 2009, which is a thriller amigo parody about Joey and his undead companion Bart, who resurrects as a Revenant, an understandable zombie that necessitates drinking blood to capture the disintegration of his body. The film merges zombie legend with vampire lore, resulting in a very unusual yet intriguing mixture. The main character, Bart, dies in battle and reincarnates as a decaying vampiric beast in need of blood to stay alive and prevent himself from withering away. Initially, he robs a blood bank before moving on to the lowest rungs of society, but events twist and things worsen from there. This isn't your typical zombie film. This time, it's viewed through the eyes of a zombie that refuses to die. At first, becoming a zombie appears to be a fantastic idea, and certainly, they can benefit society by murdering filth. But after a while, things get out of hand, and concerns arise about why people are wandering around like zombies. Prior, not to leave horror geeks scratching their heads with my ramblings thus far, has plenty of genre-based entertainment as well. Everyone engaged in makeup and effects deserves a standing ovation as fans witness Bart transform goons into the zombie equivalent of a juice box.
Joey?
No, you won't.
Why it's a must-watch. For this multitude of reasons, The Revenant will undoubtedly become a cult classic in a short period of time. Prior's grasp of many genres is outstanding, and he avoids mistakes that may allow one to overshadow the other. I was smiling and loved every minute of zombie heroism, seeing two clumsy pals execute lowlifes in previously unnoticed ways. It's getting increasingly difficult to discover a treasure like the one Kerry Prior has made here, but at least there's one more film proving that the horror genre is a long way from dead. Remember how gritty and darkly humorous Super was? With his message that one person may be heroic or just insane while taking out the bad guys? Remember how Fido's campy humor had you cheering for the zombie, who looked to be a good man in general? When you put those two things together, you get The Revenant. Not only that, but Prior demonstrates that there is still a lot of fun to be had in the horror genre, making typical boobs, blood, and guts knockoffs appear like mindless exploitation. The Revenant is brimming with life, shows sublime narrating from both the composition and executive sense, was charmingly very much acted, and is subtly one of the most smarter horror comedies made in the past couple of years. The Revenant is a fantastic addition to the zombie genre, bringing a unique and exciting take on the undead. No, this isn't the first time anything like this has been attempted, but it works better than most. Fans of Alias will enjoy seeing Anders completely unleash his creativity to create yet another iconic character to add to his portfolio. If you enjoy zombies, you should not miss this film.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.